Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I'm Jerry Horner, and joining me today is Terry Weiderhaft, and who is a fellow Benton County Master Gardener, and he's also the team leader for the Helping Hands Pantry Garden. So we're giving you an update this month on the Helping Hands Pantry Garden, and we usually do that every year because it's such a wonderful project. And we'll be getting an update on the progress and also talking about upcoming garden events and what to do in your garden in November. So November is not a big month for gardening, but you know, we're going to have our freeze probably before the 1st of November, and it's going to be pretty devastating to most of the vegetation out there. So, but there aren't many gardening activities in November, but there is an ongoing project that the Bella Vista Garden Club does, and it's most of the year. They do a Garden of the Month project, and we have a tape of some of the most recent recipients. But they look at the front garden and the side garden. They don't usually go in the back. It's just what you see when you drive by. And you can nominate people to get this garden in Bella Vista. And if you see a beautiful garden, let the Bella Vista Garden Club know about it. But we do have some tape of the last one that was taped in October. So it's before that freeze that we have at the end of October. So we always get a freeze before the end of October. Now you know that.
Right.
We are very pleased this month of October to have gotten the Yard of the Month award, and we're very pleased with our mums. They're low maintenance and not very expensive. This big white one was bought at Walmart. It was big when I bought it, and it is 3 years old, and it has come back every year from the roots, and so that really reduces the cost of them as well.
Well, you can see that was filmed before the frost because everything looks fairly good, but it was filmed in October, and some of the annuals may have been past their prime, but her mums are just beautiful. And she does get that yard waste container that they pick up. Now, what do they have in Bentonville? Do they have something in Bentonville for recycling that you can do, or they just take it to the Rogers and Bella Vista stations?
Bentonville, if you take it to the city of Bentonville, they have a collection area, and they actually have a really nice composting.
Yeah, but that's for the yard waste.
Yes.
Yeah. So, because I get some of their compost, so. But anyway, that's an ongoing project, and usually JB does that until December, usually January, February. I don't think she does the Yard of the Month, but through the year, we have a Yard of the Month every month, just the front garden, or the front yard and the side yard. So just thought you'd like to see that, little flowers now, since they're faded away after the frost. And if you get to Crystal Bridges after dark, there's a new installation there in the North Woods, and it's called the North 40 Lights. And it's an artistic light and the sound experience in the middle of the forest. And so it's going to be from October 26th to February 16th. So you have quite a while to get there. Maybe find a warm evening to go and do that. So, but today we're going to talk about the Helping Hands Pantry Garden. And I always call it the Pantry Garden because that's where everything goes, is into their pantry for the needy and the food deprived people, or what do they call them, food needy people. And I know you've been on the show several years.
It's my third year.
And this is your third year to do the
Yes.
garden? Or no,
Well, it's actually my fourth year in the garden. It's my
Fourth.
third year to be here.
Okay, so 4 years this garden's been going and it's growing every year.
Yep.
And can you just give us a brief history of those that don't know about this garden?
Okay, and I'll actually start with Helping Hands. They've been around 40 plus years.
Right.
Benton County, they're a local organization. Churches support it, formed it. They're a nonprofit. They're a thrift store. I assume a lot of people have been there, where they take in the donations, and then all the monies from what they sell go back out into the community. They do things like rent, utilities, medical bills for people who need it. And they've had a food pantry for many years
Yes.
there. And the majority of they're part of the food bank organization, Northwest Arkansas Food Bank. So the majority of their what they distribute comes from the food bank of the Northwest Arkansas.
Right.
But the piece of property they're on, the building and parking lot take up maybe like a third of the property.
Right, they have a lot of property.
Yeah,
there.
there's like 5 acres to the north of the building that's they own that. And in 2012, some of the volunteers went out onto that property and tried to till up some ground and plant some vegetables, and it didn't work.
It didn't work very
Didn't
well.
work. In 2013, I believe, Michelle Pritchett, who we actually got smart and recruited her into Master Gardeners this year, so she's now a Master Gardener. But previous to that, she actually got some raised beds installed out there and had the first pantry garden out there and donated the proceeds to the food pantry.
Right, well, no, that's when the Master Gardeners got involved.
So they actually did it I think they had done it 3 years before we got involved.
Okay.
And in 2016, C.W. Doss
Yeah.
was out. He's a Master Gardener at the year, I think that was the year he was vice president. And one of his projects that year was to find a place, because Master Gardeners, my understanding up to that point, was very concentrated on ornamentals.
Right, we did a lot of ornamental
Yeah, had a
plantings.
lot of projects
Yeah.
involved that, but we really didn't have any vegetable growing
Right.
projects.
Yeah.
So he was out looking for what would be a good opportunity to get involved more in that, and came across the pantry garden that had been started, but was
It was
really
wavering.
struggling.
It was wavering.
It was
a
really
bit,
struggling.
Yeah.
They had 20 raised beds installed, but they were struggling to keep 5 or 6 of them going.
Right.
So in 2016, we got involved, and that was actually the first year I was a Master Gardener. So it was actually the first activity I ever showed up for
Right.
as a Master Gardener. And we filled the remaining beds and kind of adopted a bed type thing. And so that was 16, and we've been doing it ever since. This is our fourth
It
year.
just keeps growing, though.
Yeah, we started with 20 beds. We're now probably around about 50 beds
Holy
that we.
And I don't get to spend too much time there. I haven't been able to work there very much, but I keep hearing about all these beds. You keep adding and adding and adding, and as I go by there when I shop, I go by and look. But it's just an amazing project.
There's a fenced-in area. I've been told it's about a third of an acre, and we've basically, in my mind, we've filled it. We're probably not going to add any more beds
Okay.
inside the current fenced area. But we've started this year a couple of projects kind of outside the fence. We put in a shed for our tools and everything.
Is that the blue shed?
The Blue Barn.
The Blue Barn.
We had an official naming, and the Blue Barn won, so that's what it
It
is.
holds all your equipment. and all
Yeah,
that,
and it's
so.
really nice, and it's actually we've got a nice porch area on the front, so it's actually, from a social standpoint, it's kind of give us an area. We store some chairs in there, and people can gather in out of the sun
Right.
type thing, so we've added that.
And then you added a compost area?
We've got a compost area, And Joanne York did the original work on that, and we got some help this year. We had Charles and Sharon Kerr,
Oh, yeah.
new members, have taken an interest in it, so they've helped us grind up. One of the issues we've had is we kind of needed some of the bigger vegetation ground up a little bit.
Yeah, because otherwise it won't compost.
Yeah, it's really a slow process if it doesn't. So they've helped with that. So we're making progress on that. We still got a ways to go.
Compost is such a necessary element, you know, in that garden.
Yeah,
It really is.
It's an area we need to improve on because it takes some time and effort, and we're getting people interested, but we've got a lot of opportunity to get better there.
And then, what type of produce do you grow there?
So we concentrate on the vegetables, and we've been there 4 years, and we try to weigh everything that we donate, so we kind of have an idea of what we're doing. And we've been there 4 years, and every year, the four big vegetables we do are tomatoes, squash, and I include zucchini in the squash, cucumbers, and peppers. And so we do a lot of those every year. And then there's different things, like last year, cantaloupe. We had a couple of beds of cantaloupe.
Yeah.
Those did really well.
Because those are things that are so expensive in the store, and you know, if you're watching your budget on food, you can't afford those expensive fruits or you know, other things that aren't, you know, reasonable.
And this year, onions did well this
Yeah.
year, so we donated a lot of onions.
And they'll keep.
Yeah.
Now, did you
And
do potatoes at all?
we had a few potatoes this year. That's not been a big crop for us
Hasn't?
traditionally. No. The one thing that we've been working on a couple years, and I'm proud that we finally got to where we could see some of the fruits of our harvest, so
Yeah.
to speak, is strawberries
Yeah.
and blackberries.
Yes.
We've had those planted for a couple years now.
Yes, it takes about 3 years to get those going.
Yeah, it takes a while, and we never had enough attention on them, type thing.
Because this is all volunteer work that cleans it up. And
It's 100% volunteer. Like I said earlier, the ground that we're on is owned by Helping Hands, and they pay the water bill.
they do have water there.
We've got a hydrant. The hydrant went in 2016,
Right.
so we've got a hydrant, and we do irrigation throughout the summer, so they pay the water bill. But that's their only cost. Everything else, we provide all the labor, we provide all the seeds, the plants, the material, either people just donating it, or some, we do get Master Gardeners. That is a project that's funded through Master Gardeners. So we do get a little bit of money every year from,
just for some seeds or plants.
and materials we need.
Yeah, because also I know that you also provide to Helping Hands is recipes to use these foods. Some people don't know how to use zucchini or you know, what to do with all these peppers or whatever. So we have recipes that are simple that they can use.
Yes, actually kind of the person who's kind of led that up, Gwen Williams, has done that for a couple years now. And she works with, you know, Master Gardeners are part of the extension
Right.
office.
From the University of Arkansas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's worked with the people in the office there, Susan Pickle, I think, and there's a couple of people in the office there that's part of their job, and she's worked with them. You know, and last year, the biggest crop, we had a bumper crop of squash a year ago. You know, it just
exploded.
People almost got tired of picking squash after a while. But so Gwen put together a couple of squash recipes and made sure those were available to people who were picking up the vegetables. This year, I know I saw she even had a sheet on just basic. I'm going to call it hygiene for vegetables.
Right, how to wash them.
Yeah, bring it in, wash it.
How to keep them, how to store
here's,
them.
Yeah, here's vegetables that need to be put in the refrigerator for a
Right,
couple days.
right.
Type
Some
thing.
people don't know that if they're never taught that, or
Yeah, if
they
you're
don't
not a
know.
gardener,
Yeah, you don't know.
you're used to buying stuff from the grocery
Yeah,
store. You don't have that knowledge.
Yeah, so you have to be able to keep it and use it so it doesn't go bad. So there's just so many things that gardeners understand that the normal public hasn't been educated on. So that's great. And then there's other participants that work in the garden at all, or?
Yeah, so we've always, like I said, the garden actually originated with the Seventh-day Adventist group, which Michelle Pritchett, I mentioned earlier, actually got the original beds out there. And they've maintained, I think right now they do 8 beds. So we have a cooperative relationship with them. They still come out. The other group that's out there that we've kind of cultivated the last couple years is homeschool kids in Benton
Oh,
County.
yeah, that's great.
And again, Michelle's is involved in that. Her kids are homeschooled. The Kerrs that I mentioned earlier, Brenda Parks, Missy Stratton, there's a couple other people. But we have beds set aside for homeschool kids.
Oh, that's a great way to educate them on gardening.
Yep,
Yeah.
they get started in April, May. And so they've been out there. This is the 3rd year that we've had them out there. And this was by far the most organized we've been in, setting up a program to get them educated.
So it's such a learning opportunity for them. It's wonderful.
And like I said, we're getting some momentum from master gardeners wanting to help out in that area. So it's went well, and that's one of the areas in the future I think we're going to do better.
Yeah, we can do some seminars there, just for the general public,
Yeah, we've had over the last couple years, we've had a couple of sessions where, like I said, we're part of the extension office, and Ryan Neal is the current agent out there who part of his job is working with master gardeners. He's in charge of the master gardeners.
He's a great support. He
Oh my
really
gosh.
is. He really is.
And extremely knowledgeable on vegetable gardening. Before he joined the extension office, he spent a couple years managing a pretty good-sized organic vegetable farming operation.
And we are basically organic there.
We don't restrict it 100%, but we kind of leave it up to the people who are out there. And 90% of the people who come out are organic. We do use a little bit of.
Well, when it gets really serious and you have to do something drastic, but organic is the way to go. So, but how many pounds now have you?
So this year was actually a little bit of a challenge. Gardening can be a humbling experience.
Oh, yeah.
You think you know everything.
It's up to Mother Nature half the
Mother
time.
Nature
Mother
says,
Nature,
no, you don't. So this year we're going to be right around 1,800 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot. It's almost a ton. It's a lot and everything. But we had a bumper crop. Last year.
Well, we had so much rain this year. It was so late getting everything in, and then
we
things
struggled.
it was
We
that
struggled
rain.
in April and early May, finding some dry days to get stuff planted.
Right.
So it wasn't our best year. Pound-wise. But like I said, we got 1,800 pounds, which
That's
is
good.
like wonderful.
That's a lot of food.
And so like I said, we've done it 4 years now. And so our 4-year total is up, we're over 8,000 pounds, about 8,400 pounds over 4 years. So that's over a ton a year that we're donating. So we feel great about that. And that's, I get kind of charged up about this. The food pantry itself is just a great concept. People need the food. But then to be able to provide we basically are the provider of the vegetables and the berries.
Because they get canned goods and other things from other places.
If it comes from the food pantry, it's probably a canned good.
It's non-perishable.
Yeah, it's a non-perishable.
Yeah.
And so they really don't have much of a source. They don't really have any source other than us.
Well, the Sheriff's Department now has a garden too, And I know Phyllis Stair, she's been involved in that several years. And their produce that they produce there at the sheriff's office, or the sheriff's, with the county jail,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
They have greenhouses, and they're training there for the women prisoners that come out and work. And they do also provide food for Helping Hands, but I don't know if they weigh it and add it to your account or anything?
It's not in our account.
Not in your
and they actually
total.
we started in 2016. I actually think they were a year or two
Later.
behind us,
Yes.
type thing. Like, I was out there a couple of times a year ago, and they were getting started and they were doing pretty good. I was not out there this year, but just my brief conversations with Phyllis, she said she was actually kind of proud, because I was telling her that we kind of had a down year this year, not as good. And she said this was by far their best year.
Well, they got the greenhouse too, so they got some protection. We don't have a greenhouse
Yeah,
yet.
we don't have
yet.
a greenhouse.
We don't have it yet.
And they have more labor.
Right, free labor.
Free labor that really enjoys being out there. And they actually, look forward to go, even when it's,
bad weather.
We struggle sometimes. It gets July and it's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
We do get some volunteers. Some of our hardcore do make it out there, type thing.
Yeah.
But I think their labor's a little more anxious to get out there.
Anxious to get out.
They love being out there, even if it is.
Well, I think that the first 2 years that Phyllis did it, she was so proud of the fact the retention rate or recidivism,
whatever
that word is.
Yeah, people who
trips my tongue.
Who
come back.
Have to come back.
So she was so proud, and the sheriff was really impressed that it was zero. Any of the women that she worked with, showing them how to plant and how to get the soil ready, and then what to do with the produce, how to pick it, and she even did classes, I think, on canning. So they knew
again
how to
with the extension
preserve it
office.
with the extension office
Helping out.
And she was so proud because it was a 0%. None of these women came back.
Yep.
And I think this past year, she was disappointed. 2 women did come back. So, but these are probably women that just had a bad time at a part of their life. They're not real terrible people. They're just had a bad time and little problems in their life. And this gardening has really opened a new world for them. So, and I think now she said even the men are going to get involved somehow.
Right. I'm pretty sure that the greenhouse. I think there is a greenhouse for both men and women.
Is it? Okay. I knew they had 2 greenhouses.
And I think in some way they've kind of divided up the garden so that, the men, my understanding was this year that the men were as involved, if not more, than the women this year.
So it's just a wonderful way to, to give people a chance to learn all these, techniques, how to grow things and how to use things. And it's just gardening is just a great thing. So, and then what are the future plans now? Is there any additional, because I know there's more space out there.
Oh yeah. Like I said, we've, inside the fence, we've pretty much filled it up, but then there's the opportunity to go what I call outside the fence. And this year was actually the first year we put down some landscaping cloth. About a year ago, we picked out an area, couple hundred, 200-300, square feet, that we went in the fall and cut the grass down as short as we could and put landscape cloth down to kill the grass. And we struggled with it a little bit over the winter because that is a windy area.
Oh, it is. It's just, there's no trees or anything. It's just open.
But we got through it. And we did do some planting out there this year. I think we probably got like 30 pounds of cantaloupe and watermelon.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel good that we've got the grass killed now. We've got the area set up.
Well, weren't you putting in some like apple trees and pear trees?
There
or-
there have been some apple trees out there for a couple years. Those are struggling. We need to give them more attention if we're
Yeah.
going to keep up
It's
with
hard to grow apples in Arkansas.
And it's been in an area. One of our issues has been we had the fenced area, so we could get people in there. We set the trees because it was the best place to set them outside the fence. And once they're outside the fence, they're kind of out of mind. One of our projects, we just got it wrapped up in August or whatever. We actually put a gate in our fence now that you can
get out to
that area.
yeah.
So hopefully with the improved access,
yeah.
people get out there more. And with us now having the melon patch outside the fence, and we actually ran irrigation out there
that's great.
last summer, so we're set up. This year was kind of a year to get that area started type thing. So hopefully we're ready to go from the get-go this year. That come March this year, we've got the irrigation out there, we've killed all the grass off, we've put the fence in.
It's a
the
long
gate in.
process to get this garden up and running. It really is.
Well, when we make the additions,
Yeah.
it takes a couple years
Yeah.
to get the physical stuff set up, and then to get people tuned in that we've got this new area and that we need the
Right.
volunteers
Right.
to come out.
Well, Master Gardeners is growing too.
Yes.
You know, we're getting more and more members. We got different ways to become a Master Gardener now. We have Zoom classes and online training instead of having to go to the physical, training sessions. So we are getting more Master Gardeners and hopefully get more help there.
I think there's a class
There's going on
today.
right now as we speak. There's classes. So, well, thank you, Terry, for updating us. This is such a wonderful project, and it's just heartwarming to hear all the stories with with these people getting fresh food.
Yeah, it's great. It just fits with Master Gardening
It
so
does.
well.
It does.
And
Yeah.
and Helping Hands is just a great partner.
Oh, they're a great
and
organization.
to be able to do the garden on the lot that's by the building.
It's right
when
there.
we harvest it, it's
right there.
It's a 50-feet walk
Right.
to take it into the back door
Right.
and distribute it to
Yeah,
people.
it's
So it's
great.
great.
Yeah. So in November, in your cleanup and all, you got to clean up all these beds, just like if we have a garden, or vegetable garden in our on our property, we have to clean it up. And so, what else do? Do you put any hay down or any
So
cover
we're-
crop or anything?
Last year we did. We've got like 50 beds out there. We did do cover crops in like 6 beds.
Yeah.
Last year. This year I'm not aware. Somebody's got to volunteer to go do it.
Right,
And go do it. So
right.
I'm not. It's not happened that I'm aware of. The one thing we do, I put out a note earlier in the week that it's time to clear out the vegetation.
Right,
We don't want to leave any of the dead vegetation.
Right. That all has to
in
go in
there.
the compost.
It all
yeah.
has to go in the compost. We did have one person, I think, who just a couple weeks ago, and it's getting kind of late, but just a couple weeks ago, put in some garlic. And so
Oh,
that's
yeah.
going to overwinter.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll be ready hopefully
You
like
have to
in
plant
June.
your garlic in October.
And otherwise, clean it off. And if you want to, like you said, put some light mulch, hay, or something over it, now's a great time to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So the other things you need to do in your garden, though, is the perennials. If you want to separate, it's getting a little cold for early November, but we're going to have some warmer days to, do some cleaning up and cutting back of perennials. But the main thing, if you cut back your perennials, you don't want to cut back your salvia, because it's a hollow stem and water gets in there and then it kills the plant. So don't cut your salvia. Let that just go for the birds to get some seeds or whatever, and let the snow fall on it and make a little sculpture out there. So, and then your lawns, you got to keep the lawns about 2 inches. Keep the leaves off the lawns. That's the main thing. And roses, if you have roses, you have to mulch them after a few freezes. Get some mulch around those roses. So, but there's not too much to do in your garden in November. I think kind of clean up and and enjoy the beautiful color. Our peak color is probably the first week of November, I think, is our peak this year. So mainly just enjoy the color and the crisp weather and relief from the heat we had this summer. So, but thank you, Terry, for joining us today. And the Garden Club is having their next meeting. The next meeting will be in January. They're taking the kind of the winter off, so it'll be in January. And if you have any other questions about gardening, you can go to bellavistagardenclub.com. Has wonderful information, and the Master Gardener website, bentoncountygardening.org, has wonderful information. Anything you need to know, it's on that website, I think. So anyway, thank you again, and if you've enjoyed the show, hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll tune in again next month. And until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.